Simon the Magician working. We're at High Tech Guys doing the alignment. We got 4 tires on there, balanced. And now we're lining it up. These are Hankook Evo R tires on the OEM fitment. So 285/30 in the back, 275/35 in the front, 19-inch wheel in the front, 20 in the rear. And this is the Cobra height adjustable suspension. So at the lowest setting on OEM tires with 20mm spacers, I think it looks perfect. What's up, fam? The front tires are off, and right here is a brake duct that you can actually take off. They say for street use to keep it on, but debris does build out back there, so we got both of them off. It might help with brake cooling, but it's not that hot enough anyway, but I'm gonna keep it off. All right, what's good, fam? Welcome back to Unlockable Character. We're gonna get the car gassed up. Whew, don't wanna trip. Working on a bigger platform. Oh, let's get going, guys. Car's looking mint, a little bit dirty. New tires, alignment, let's go. Shout out High Tech Suspension. I haven't decided yet where we're going, guys. Let's see. Just for the sake of going on a drive, we can go to the car wash, you know what I mean? Car just got worked on a little bit, might as well wash it up. Put it into track mode, guys. We're gonna keep it in all-wheel drive. When you get new tires on a car, for the first 200 miles, I'd say, they may have what you could consider like a coating or a glaze that needs to be worn off. And so you won't get full performance from your new tires for about 200 miles, I'd say, for most tires, most name brand tires. I'm running Hankook Evos, guys. So for the full set, it was just about $1,000 for OEM size rears and fronts versus the Pirellis and the Michelins, which are like $2,000 all in for the fronts and rears, which is just crazy. You know, that's just the tire. That's not counting anything else, like actually getting the car to the shop and then doing the mounting, you know, road force balancing, etc. Let's see what goes on here, guys. They're breaking up over there. People here like have no sense of driving. I swear, in the United States, what's happened is the middle class got eliminated, so there's no real standard for what you would consider the first world anymore, or it's depreciating and deteriorating. And a lot of the third world immigrants that have come in, they don't understand that there is a standard, so they don't really live up to it. You know, they bring in a lot of, I would say, third world habits to what should be a first world country, but the United States is just shooting itself in the foot because we have not, you know, tried to create a larger middle class. We've actually created a much bigger, smaller, bigger lower class, it's funny enough to say. And you know, basically a class of millionaires, which is like an upper middle class, no real middle class, and then a huge lower class, which mostly are government dependents, right? They need checks for disability, social security, unemployment, you know, childcare, dependencies. Just, there's a massive amount of the country that is dependent on wages from the government, you know, benefits from the government. And I think that's by design, guys, but what also happens then is the country's reproductive rate goes down, right? American women are not having as many kids as they used to, and they're having the kids older, versus trying to gain, you know, more in terms of population from immigration. What you're having is a middle class that got decimated, and then people who are upper middle class or who were traditionally middle class having less children. So, you know, you're cutting away the foundation and the structure of the country in terms of what is class, what is like manners, common sense, etiquette, like what does it mean to live in a first world. You have higher levels of immigration than ever, right, coming in from third world countries where people don't actually have perspective and reference to what, you know, first world manners, culture, etc. is. And when you have a smaller middle class, for there to even be an example, like, of course the first world is going to slide more into the third world. So that's just, you know, my perspective as the future that's coming is very much dystopian, cyberpunk, and technologically enabled, you know. The United States really has what you would consider a upper middle class, which is like the top 5%, and then the top 1%, and then everything else in terms of the country. We really have lost, I think, a strong middle class, and the only thing that would change that is if we, I think, reconsider what it means for people to work, and technology, and just the possibility of robotics being taxed instead of humans. You know, just there's a whole rethinking, I think, that has to happen with the economy, because right now it's really what you would consider ultra capitalist, planned with a small group of people who have acquired most of the world's assets and made it, you know, increasingly difficult for people to see through the bullshit to be able to get to that position, because it's basically a game where we've decimated the American middle class to prop up a billionaire elitist class, while, you know, actually accelerating immigration from third world countries into the United States. So I'm not sure what people thought was going to happen, but, you know, you can only exploit the American middle class for so long. And maybe it is timed, guys, because, you know, robotics is about 10 years away in terms of really being a household consumer product, where you have a human form robot with a large language model probably running, and you know, literally improving every day. So very soon, I think this is going to be the biggest kind of growth sector for the economy, is going to be domestic consumer robots. And, you know, it's a great place to think about where should you invest your money for robotics companies, but also it's a little bit scary to consider, with all of that technology, there's also going to be professional robots that do the same kind of functions as the domestic robots, but in a professional setting. And people are going to need to tax those robots, because they're going to be replacing people who do work. Look at this Ford or GMC, so aggressive to try and get in front of me, but he's just going to get stuck behind that van. You can tell people who are too close to you, you know what I mean? Like, that's following too closely. They just have no sense. Let's make them look silly. Maybe they'll learn how to drive, guys. We'll see. And that's not even road rage. That's just knowing my car and not letting people do dumb shit. You know what I mean? To an extent. I'm not going crazy. I just, when I see bad drivers, I give them a little lesson. But to be honest, guys, the workforce, the labor force, a lot of manual tasks are going to be replaced by robotics combined with AI. It's just going to happen, probably 10, 15 years, and there has to be a massive change. I unfortunately think the United States will be behind the curve. So, you know, I don't think universal basic income in its first form, it's going to happen, but in its first form, the United States will be 15 years behind. I do think there's a lot of potential for blockchain technologies to support universal basic income, and for some of the value probably to be based on a digital currency backed by the, you know, full faith and trust of the United States government, something like that. They could literally print a $1 trillion coin if they wanted to and make it a digital currency to support universal basic income. The government could absolutely do that. It's all about how all of this transpires for the wealthy elite to keep trying to extract a ton of money from the middle class by confusing them and not showing them the clarity of how the future is going to play out, and still having a class divide, a politics divide between Republicans and Democrats, when it's really going to be, how do we tax robots and move to universal basic income? You know what I mean? SUV still doesn't know what to do. It's pretty funny. I'm still amused by the fact that he can't get out of that lane. Now he's going to the left lane. Take this left. But yeah, the problem is that the elites that control most of the world's asset and capital have made it so that there's a two-party system in the United States where no one realizes the truth that's actually coming out and the future that we're heading towards, because they want to continue to extract as much wealth as possible from people and antiquated methods of what you would consider capitalism and labor. And this is just me being very realistic about it. I think we have a 15-20 year time period between when most physical labor can be replaced with AI and robotics, and we just have to figure out what's next. And unfortunately, you'll see the elites, the people with the most amount of money and capital, and we're talking about not just new money but old money mostly, families that have had wealth for a long time, they will be holding back, as they always have, the ability for the human civilization, you know, to actually advance. That's some deep thoughts today, guys, on a day where we got new tires and an alignment. Maybe we can have some fun in a bit. Sounds pretty good. Car is now in the stiffest settings for four-wheel drive sport, so I can show you what that looks like, guys. When you hit the home button and then hit up, you can bring up your shortcuts. I have setup as one of my shortcuts, so I can quickly change, you know, what's going on with the car. So M1 right now, stiffest settings, Sport Plus everything, engine Sport Plus, transmission S3, which is the fastest manual shifting speed, chassis Sport Plus, steering Sport, brake Sport, DSC, which is stability control, off. MX drive, four-wheel drive sport. Start stop off. I hate start stop. I just always have it off. You know what I mean? M sound off. So burbles off. That's what that means when you have a valve controller. So M1, very sporty. M2, also extremely sporty, except the chassis and steering are in comfort. So, you know, a more supple, I would say, suspension feel, and steering less input that is needed, you know, less weight to the wheel. It's really, you know, rear wheel drive for drifting, I like a looser, you know, feeling and a less firm ride. And then M1 all wheel drive, you know, I want it to be dialed in. So that's really why I have it the way I have it right now, guys, for those wondering about the M1 and M2 setup. downshifting and coasting, you know what I mean? Don't need to use the brakes too much. That was me getting into the left lane, guys, as cars were coming in the right, and without really having to slow down much, but giving space for cars in the right. Kind of similar to what a zipper merge would be, but just applying it while you're actually getting into the left lane instead of merging, because those cars are merging, but you do want to give them space. And that means you don't need to pass to try and get in front of the Escalade, which was the car to my left. You can actually go behind that car. Sometimes that's a really good option. Feel great, guys. Not even trying them. That was like, I would say 30% brake input. So new tires actually help your braking performance a lot. People don't realize how much new tires and fresh tread can help you. After your tires are worn down, your braking performance can get like, you know, 1.5 times worse, like 50% worse. That means the distance that you need is increased. Oh, man. This car is something else, guys. Yeah, I would say that the number one thing you could probably ever spend money on for a car is a new set of tires with a proper, you know, balancing, mounting, and alignment. So shout out High Tech. They used to be called High Tech Suspension. I still call them that. They're High Tech Motorsports now, but they've always taken care of me. I appreciate them. They do a great job too. They actually maintain their equipment. A lot of dealerships, I've realized, they don't maintain their alignment machines, and sometimes the alignment machines need to be calibrated and they're not. So you can get really wonky alignments even though they'll print out specs that they think are true. So just something to look out for, guys. Is bouncing a little bit more, guys, because it's so firm. And that's usually on 400 is where I set the suspension to soft in all-wheel drive. This is 400, the highway, because it's so firm. The stiff settings really get you, but I'll just keep it in stiff for now. You'll be able to tell there's a little bit more of kind of a firmness in terms of experiencing uneven terrain and going over it and remaining taut or tight versus remaining loose and kind of flowing with. The terrain just changes, which is when you're in comfort settings in the suspension. This back into M1, and now this is the stiffest settings. This is 400, so you'll feel the car on the stiffest settings kind of, being tight and taut, which is like very firm, right? Very firm. But if on the fly you can do this, I'm in setup right now, I'm gonna put the steering and the chassis back to comfort, and it just lightens up, and I think on a very rough surface, a road with a lot of undulations like 400, soft is great. But if you're on a racetrack and you want to optimize the car, it's not just doing soft all around or firm all around. That's why when you get a coilover setup with rebound and dampening, which are adjustable on every corner, that's when you start really fine-tuning a car. This is really for road use, right? Like all four corners of the car are going to be either soft or they're going to be tight. Some people really like that feeling of tightness all the time, but it can really wear on you, So on a road like this, when you're traveling a long distance, there's no reason to have it in that Sport Plus chassis setting for the tightest, firmest ride, But it can be fun for twisties and, back roads, but everyone has a different style and preference too. Some people like the looser feeling of comfort chassis, you know what I mean? And personally with rear wheel drive, I like the looser, you know, more comfortable feeling, whereas in all wheel drive, you know, I like it to be the firmer, tighter Sport Plus chassis setting with the sport steering for, you know, more weight in the wheel itself. So looks like we have a road pirate ahead, guys, so I'm gonna get in the middle lane and chill. So guys, on second thought, I'm actually gonna go to Costco. I need to get some milk. Been hitting the gym again, and I just run out of milk because I'm making shakes all the time. And guys, when you think about fitness and health, if you're able to make your own shakes and control the ingredients that go into it, it's a great meal. You know, it could become a meal and a half if you make a lot of it. And just, it's a fantastic way to control what you're consuming and know what you're putting into the shake. Protein, of course, you can mix with milk, but you can get creative, right? Fruits, all kinds of different things. So the Costco line for gas is always crazy. And you know what? I've never actually got gas in this car at Costco. Maybe that's a little bit OCD. You know, I've been told that Shell is like the best in terms of top tier gasoline. We're actually just switching now from the summer blends of gas to winter blends of gas. So the price of gas has come down like 30 cents, what I've seen in the US. That happens in September. The winter blends are not as, I think, rich in terms of octane. I mean, they'll still get that 93 octane rating, but the winter blend is not going to be, I think, as clean as the summer blend, from what I understand. And that's pretty interesting. So in the winter, more than ever, you'd be worried about getting, you know, top tier gas. And I have to look into see if Costco has top tier gas. Premier here is $3.25, where at Shell right now it was $3.65, which is really good, because most of the 93 octane here has been over $4 for the summer, and a lot of the Shells actually charge more than like the racetrack and the quick trip gas stations. But we'll see, you guys. I'll turn this back on once we're done with Costco. All right, fam, what's good? After way too much time trying to adjust the camera, we are getting out of here. We just got some milk at Costco. Always busy parking lot. I like going out the reverse way because there's no speed bumps. And again, just trying to make sure that this is a really good, you know, angle for the camera. I will say that a lot of people in some of the most suburban neighborhoods around, you know, major cities, they have bought into the idea of what a house in the suburbs is, and I think they hold on to it because it's a sense of safety for them, and so they get very fearful. And so in the United States, you have a lot of people who have acquired a little bit of capital for themselves, and, you know, maybe they own property, but the way that the culture and the climate of the United States is set up, they become very tribalistic and, you know, fearful. And so when you have someone, you know, driving an M4 with a GoPro on their head in some of these communities, I feel like you do get certain reactions from certain folks who their minds are just closed, you know what I mean? And it could just be their intelligence or their perspective, but they're going to be more fearful than curious. So you have to remember that can be a situation where then, you know, they're going to call like the security or police on you and be a Karen because they're basically afraid of what they don't understand. And that really is a real kind of danger, I think, as a car enthusiast. Most people, I think, don't even understand that you can have fun driving, even in traffic. And it's unfortunate, but that's not us, guys. So much in the car. I'm not even like, it wants so much, this car. It wants so much out of you, and it really can go at the limit. But I'm telling you, I'm still a little bit afraid of the car, because at the limit, you know, it's like tiptoeing, you know what I mean? Tiptoeing around what is safe and what isn't. I do think the power delivery in the M3 and the M4 is so fantastic, because it always feels like it's rising. There's so much power all the way to 7,000 RPM. It's insane. And I think what people don't understand about like a JB4 in a car like the M3 and the M4 is that you're giving away the drivability of a very nice linear, you know, power band where you're building power through the power band to a JB4 delivering a ton of boost and a lot of torque early, but then not having a smooth linear power band. So the drivability goes out the window with something like JB4, and unless you just want to go fast in a straight line, I don't think it's a good idea, personally. So that's something to consider too. The JB4 will obviously get you good like 60 roll times, and I'm sure you could even, you know, launch the car with more boost early, but that'll just break traction most of the time, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be a really good, better driving experience overall that you can, you know, bring to the track and feel that it's going to be consistent and reliable. That's what people don't really understand between having a JB4 and a full tune, you know? And I know the JB4s have become more advanced, but it's still pretty much the same thing. It does not have the ability to read everything in terms of the computer the way a full tune does. These cars also, I'll tell you what, the JB4 install is not easy, because one of the sensors, the plugs that have to be you know, basically plugged into the JB4 sensors instead of the factory sensors, it's so deep and far into the engine that you need someone with like a long arm, a skinny arm with skinny fingers to like actually get back there and get that. And your hands will get bloody, and it's not like, oh, it's a 1 hour thing like on the previous cars, like the Supra, for example. I would say it takes about an hour max. It can take an hour and a half on the M3 and the M4. It's not as simple as some other JB4 configurations. For those of you that do have a JB4, I do have a lot of awesome settings for it. It will help with the drivability. It builds a linear boost profile, the settings that I have, and I can share that with 93 octane, E30, E50. Book time with me if you want those settings and you're looking to, you know, modify your car. My Calendly link is below, so just think about that.